Good morning, traders. Today is Friday, October 28th. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. All right, so what do we have in store for us today? Well, I'm going to go through this very, very quickly just because I'm running a bit late this morning. But essentially, yesterday was obviously clearly a sign that the momentum to the upside was over. And we were basically looking to figure out yesterday, were we going to turn the high from a couple days ago into support and then continue higher, giving us a chance to balance off the excess we've created with time? Or did we need to pull back lower and balance it off with price? So the overnight traded lower, brought in a lot of volume and spent a lot of time down here below yesterday's range. So in my mind, of course, that was because of the earnings at the end of the day yesterday. So in my mind, that means the highest probability is that price needs to follow that trajectory during the regular trading hours. And at the very least, try to repair these first week references at 37.90. So that's what I think is probably the highest probability thing. But I am, I would describe myself as neutral to bearish because there is, of course, a chance, since they did all the work to get us all the way back up into yesterday's range, that if we can find support in here and stay inside yesterday's range, we can head up and test the overnight high and then get continuation higher. But that to me seems like the least likely scenario, and it would be more likely we continue lower. It's also worth noting that the NQ, or I was about to say has a gap down, but it looks like they may open right on yesterday's low. So you could think about the NQ as sort of gap and go energy, right? If they get to yesterday's low, do they find resistance there? Excuse me. Do they find resistance there? If so, look for continuation lower. If not, if they push up into yesterday's range and they bring in new buyers up there, then they can start the momentum up. But to me, it's also neutral to bearish. And I just want to take a quick second here and zoom out to the daily and just point out that I'm not really going to be talking about balance areas or longer term positions because there's so much happening here. There's this balance area that we could be potentially retesting for continuation higher. There's this channel that we could be building as a form of balance to build momentum to the upside. There's this channel that we could be building as momentum to the downside. That was a horrible line. Sorry. This channel here, the last couple, highs of the day, lows of the day, that could be momentum to the downside. We could have a small balance area up here, building on top of our previous balance here. Like there's so many different arguments to be made in terms of, is the market balancing? Is it doing this? Where is it going to find support? So I'm just going to be right now today and probably, we'll see how today plays out, but I'm just very, very focused on short-term intraday momentum. What is the momentum right now in this moment? Where are they going? And not going to try to figure out bigger picture what's happening in this mess because there's so many different arguments to be made. So in that thought process of staying really, really focused on short-term momentum, getting back below yesterday's low, having those weak references. Let me go back to the ES. Getting back below yesterday's low and having those weak references right there seems like the highest probability short-term momentum. So let's see what happens. Market is open. We're about to go test that overnight high. So if I'm wrong and the market wants to go higher today, they will push above that overnight high, above 38.28, and come back down and find support and find buyers in there waiting. All right, so here's the test now. We pushed above the overnight high. Can it hold? Can we bring in new buyers up here? Or do we pull back down to the halfback? It's also worth noting that the overnight inventory was completely neutral. They basically closed almost exactly where they opened. So that means whatever momentum we get out of the gate today in the ticks could be pointing us to the momentum for the day. So if we start to build momentum higher, that will be bullish as we started neutral. All right, so the tempo and the thin volume is telling me that this is mostly FOMO and short covering in here. We have not had a good pullback to truly test if we have support. And now that the halfback is at the overnight high, that will be a very good level to look for buyers. So we're looking for them to keep price above the overnight high. Okay, create support here around 29 and keep those ticks above the zero line. If they want to keep this momentum going up, that's what they'll have to do. John Lash, Michigan Sentiment at 10. Thanks for the heads up. All right, that is new buyers above the overnight high, which is bullish. So short term, they have the momentum. So now it's a question of the resistance from yesterday's range. Can they work their way through it? First resistance is at 38.45, then up at 38, basically 38.50. Design knob, the Q is a chugging. Exactly the same as the ES. So as long as they can hold that support above the overnight, it's bullish for them to try to push their way up into yesterday's range. So look for support around 11,263 and 11,250. If they can stay above there, look for continuation to the upside. Next major resistance on the Q, actually you're pushing into it right now, 11,322 to like 11,345. Can they get through that node? Same thing on the ES, testing this node around 45 here. For resistance. Okay, more short covering. All right, so it would make sense to me as we turn this into resistance to come back down and test the support once again around the 36 area. If we're able to build up the momentum up here to immediately break through and continue higher, that could be the sign of a beginning of a trend. Just because we pushed higher, built up momentum, pushed higher, and now we're building up momentum again. So if they break higher from here, it is a sign. The bulls are definitely in charge. What seems more probable is a pullback to test support once again. So it's kind of a when what should happens if they immediately start to push higher. Chris, maybe double top with yesterday's high? No. This is about the push pull that we're experiencing right now is the market trying to figure out what it wants to do on the daily, right? If it wants continuation lower, if it wants to take the market lower, it's going to make a lower high. So we're going to find resistance somewhere inside of yesterday's range, and then we're going to fail and come back down. If they get back up to yesterday's high, it's not to make a double top. It's because they were back testing support, and they want to take it higher. So it's like a question of like which balance are we focused on? Are we focused on this channel here? Or are we focused on this channel here? which is going down. You pick. So all I can do in the moment is just play it very, very short term. The little moves it makes from here to here, does it find resistant, and just kind of play it very, very short term and wait and see what it's trying to do bigger picture. Right now, short term, it has momentum to the upside. Can they hold it? Xavier, welcome back. Christopher, big rejection from the top as well. Yeah, if you're talking about this right here, I don't see this as a rejection. It's just resistance. We just got to poke at it till we can poke through. Poke, poke. Oh, the dailies. Yeah, for sure. That is the way it feels to me. But that's a pure guess at this point. It feels to me like the market has rolled over. and is heading lower, and we're just kind of like in this little area right here, kind of doing some battle. But I could be wrong, and we may have just been pulling back looking for support, and now we can go higher. So let's just take it one tick at a time, see what the market gives us. All right, so there you go. We're pushing through the resistance, and we didn't even need to pull back to the previous support to do it. So once again, we built volume, pushed higher, built volume, pushed higher, and now we have just once more built volume and are beginning to push higher. So that's bullish to see. Next resistance, 38.55. There's a really big node. That's going to take quite a lot of effort to poke through there. Okay, where we did all this trade in the overnight, the night before last. So I suspect if we are going to get in there, it's going to be quite a grind to get through that. So I remain bullish as long as we're above the halfback. We may have to really do some grinding to get up through there. But as long as we stay above the halfback, I think the bulls will have the momentum. Also keeping an eye on those ticks. They can dip below the zero for a second, but we want them to pop back up. Any big red tick that breaks the momentum and stays down here is a sign the market needs to pull back. It's a sign the momentum is over. Uh, Tyson, do you look at the breath? I do. It's covered up right now, but I, I do look at it. It's right there. By the way, if anybody wants me to throw up a banner on the bottom of the screen, we just need 11 more likes to make it happen. So I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just putting it out there into the universe. The universe can do with that information whatever they want. Design up nudity? Okay, maybe you can't have whatever you want. Ah, 116. Thanks, guys. All right. So, yeah, like I said, I am bullish, but it feels like that momentum's coming to an end. So, as I said before, they got to keep price above the halfback at 38.35, and we don't want a big red tick. One little push, one little red tick down here real quick is okay, but they got to pop it right back up. If we get a big red tick that holds below that zero line, it's a sign the momentum is over. Morty, yay, banner time. Mark NQ needs business. NQ needs some business. All right, well, they worked their way through that big node of resistance. So now the question is, can they turn that into support? So same as the ES, you want to see them hold those ticks above the zero line and keep the market above the halfback. Otherwise, you've got good taper right where we ran out of momentum yesterday. And that's never a good sign. That's the sign that the high of the day might be in. So they need to hold this support. Hold those ticks, Q. Hold those ticks. Is this the Michigan thing? The Michigan sentiment? Breaking. They forecast 59.6. They got 59.9. Oh my God. What's going to happen next? Okay, so now we got a poor high. That increases the odds that the market needs to pull back looking for support and then come back and repair it. There was the pullback to support, and looks like we're heading back up for the repair. That was an instant poor high. That's one for teaching right there. Boop, boop, boop. Charles, pending home sales took a big dump. Well, obviously. It makes sense. It's not a good time to buy a house. The question isn't whether the information is good or bad, but whether it's priced into the market. Were they expecting or not? All right, well, I'm starting to lose my bullishness here. They got good excess, good taper on the high. And the ticks are starting to fail, so they need to find the support. They need to pop those ticks back above the zero. Or this thing may turn around and head the opposite direction. So this is what I was talking about. One little poke of the ticks is okay, but they need to step in now and get those back above the zero line. Or that is the big red tick. All right, so they're holding it. Can they get back above the zero line? Okay, so now does previous support, this area that was acting as support around 45, does that become resistance? We got the ticks back above the zero line. Do we get pushed back down again? Okay, here's that test. Does previous support become resistance at 45? If we push right back up through it, the market is still bullish. If it becomes resistance, we have run out of momentum. Okay, support becoming resistance, ticks back below the zero. I am back to neutral. To get me bullish again, they would have to get above this node and turn it into support once more. Otherwise, it feels like the market is running out of steam. And if we don't have the buyers here, well, we're probably going to have to pull the market back down, looking for them at lower prices. Mateus says, quite the change of events from last night. Well, it really depends on what you define as last night. If you define a change of events from yesterday's close, not really. We opened just a few points off from where we closed. And, we were just balancing around inside this area all afternoon yesterday. And so now we're just doing more balance exactly where we balanced yesterday. So it's all a matter of time frame. If you just don't worry about what the overnight is doing, this thing is just kind of still going sideways. Balance on top of balance on top of balance. I hate the market because it loves to do this. All right, so as we head back down to test the support at the halfback, we recognize it's less likely to hold because we don't have the momentum anymore. We now have more sellers beginning to pile on than buyers. So always we look for support at the halfback. But if they don't have the ticks, they're not likely going to have the buyers waiting there. In which case we will look to test the overnight high at 38.27. Yeah, no support. No buyers at the halfback today. 50% off is not a big enough discount. Let's see if 75 does the trick. All right, so the bulls found some support, and they got those ticks back above the zero line. But like I said before, I won't get bullish again unless they get above this node that was resistance and turn it into support once again. My guess is we're just going to get smacked down and have some chop inside of here. So I won't get bullish till we turn that into support. Otherwise, it feels like it might be chop. Quick little survey just for my own curiosity's sake. How's everybody feel about Elon and Twitter? It's official. He's the boss man now. Do we like the fact that a billionaire can pull the strings behind how the town square works and we all communicate with each other? Particularly the fact that Twitter is the main source that the news community uses to access and share information. Do we like the fact that one of the richest people on earth can control that now? Or do we not? How do we feel as a chat? Let me know. Chris, why is it any worse than Jack Dorsey? Well, just because he's taking it private. It's not going to be there's no public accountability. Even the Zuck has shareholders to answer to. All right. Well, I'm surprised to see they're pressing through that resistance so easily. So if they can turn it into support, I will get bullish once again. All right, so if they're going to turn this into support, they got to keep those ticks. They just did a lot of work to get those ticks back above the zero line. Can they hold it? All right, the results of the survey pretty evenly split. 44% think it's good, 33% don't care, and 22% think it's bad. So the news is rotational. Nap, why do we think the excess at the high is good? Because two ticks is good. That's how much you need to make a good high. It's also the way it happened up there. It like poked up and it instantly came back down. It spent no time. So you just know there's no one that wants to do business. Or there wasn't at that moment anyway. And now we're about to find out if there'll be more. Can they hold it? Sure doesn't look like it. Falcon, why is there resistance on 38.49? I can't tell you why there's resistance, but I can tell you how you see it, which is with the previous volume that was traded in there. Right? When you look at the cumulative, you can see that big circle of all the business that was done there before. And so you just know that's an important level. Why is it important? Well, who knows? I can't tell you that. Why is the sky blue, you know? Some things just are. Sorry, I'm being patronizing. Jay, can you explain the halfback and what it means again? Yeah, the halfback is the little white line you see at the middle of the range right there. That is 50% from the high to the low of the day, which is half the range. And it's, you think about it much like you would think about a Fibonacci retracement. It's just like if somebody was thinking about buying the market up here around the highs, but they were scared to do it. This is an area where it's almost like the market's been put on sale. It's like they put out a sign, 50% off here at this level. So all of a sudden, people that thought it was overpriced up here and aren't willing to do business, they become willing to do business down there. So it often acts as support if the market is working its way higher, or acts as resistance if the market is working its way lower. The same way that, in a retail store, if they're having trouble selling a product, no one wants to buy it, they just put it on 50% discount. They'll try 15%. They'll try 25%. They'll even try a 35% discount, but if that won't do it, they'll take that item to halfback. And there's usually buyers there. All right. Well, it feels like we're starting to build support. So same setup as before, but with a tighter stop. I am now bullish as long as we stay above 38.40. Looking to test the resistance at 38.57 and then up at like 38.64. Can only be very, very short term, bullish or bearish in this market. Okay, pushing into that resistance now. Oh boy, another round of short covering. They just squeezed all those sellers. All those poor, poor sellers. All right, here's the next set of resistance right here. All right, so the market got a little bit ahead of itself here. A little bit too much short covering and FOMO buying. We left behind a low volume node at 3857.75 that needs backfilling. And then we will look for support around 54 for continuation. If they can find support there, the next target to the upside is testing yesterday's high. All right, so as we begin to print the C period here, we left behind a set of single prints in the B period. That increases the odds that we're going to pull back down and backfill those single prints. And we will look for support at the base of those single prints, 38.54. Also, it's a little bit higher probability with the fact that we left behind that low volume node. But obviously the fact that we didn't and we immediately created a trend higher is bullish as a sign of momentum. And we are now one time framing higher here on the ES, which is bullish. Both markets, NQ as well. One time framing higher, but they left behind both low volume node and single prints exactly the same. So they really need to pull back to 11,366 for support, but they are trending higher. Apparently, the market finds all these tech companies and their shitty earnings to be fantastic. It says, hell yeah. Let's go back and test yesterday's high. We'll probably have new buyers up there. The market is bullish. All right. Thank you guys very much. We will see you back here on Monday morning. Enjoy your Halloween weekend. Try not to haunt anyone too hard. And don't eat too much of your children's candy. Okay? This is the one day of the year they have to look forward to. Do not steal your children's candy. All right. Have a good weekend, everyone, and we'll see you here on Monday morning.